Good evening and welcome to World Talks, where every word matters. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Just as the world has been getting to terms with the real nature of the Donald Trump's presidency as being plainly transactional, the 47th president has altered the real meaning of the word by ordering to lift the enforcement of a ban on American companies bribing foreign officials. Now, what that could mean for American companies operating abroad, as well as on Polish companies. To discuss this matter, I'm joined now by Rewald Senior Strategic Advisor, Crido. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming to our studio. So, it's going to mean a lot more business for America. This is a citation from Donald Trump. Is it really going to be the case?
Well, first of all, it's not a suspension of that prohibition. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is an act of Congress. It's a very valid law. And the only thing that Trump has done and announced in his executive order is that they are going to suspend enforcement of that law for a while to investigate whether the enforcement is not overly provided. And that means that, unfortunately, the world goes into the world saying that, look, Americans are no longer being this phenomenally ethical and careful companies, and you might want to go and approach them and ask them for bribes. Mm-hmm. That's a very unfortunate result of it. However, as I said, it's not end of it, because the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is still a law, and it will have to be enforced sooner or later.
But for the time being, the order for pause has been issued.
That's correct.
So really, I mean, the world is trying to come to grasp with what it actually can mean, because how about individual legal system in respective countries? Let's imagine that an American businessman violates Polish law in terms of bribery and anti-corruption. So what next?
The idea is not to give bribes to foreign officials. So the government people would be recipients of those bribes. In Europe, it's been a practice for years, because OECD has adopted those provisions that the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act has, and basically Europe pretty much got streamlined for last 20 years. I've been in business representing American investors in Poland and other places, and I've never been exposed to any even hint of a bribe that Americans would pay to anybody. The business became very ethical, and the philosophy is that now, Trump says that enforcement of this anti-corruption law makes Americans disadvantaged to other companies, which are obviously, in his words, are providing bribes to foreign officials, which is not the case. And it's wrong, because frankly, I think that the American companies and investors' advantage over other competitors is that they are clean, they are ethical, they have integrity, and you can rely that they are not going to ask for bribes, which is another aspect, because if you are an investor and you know that you are going to take bribes, the foreign officials of some country are going to come and put a lot of obstacles for your business.
Exactly.
Anticipating that you have to pay to get those obstacles out.
Exactly.
And that's the problem with this kind of announcement. Are we now able to put additional obstacles and make it difficult for Americans to spread their investments or bring their investments so we can get the bribes? It's not going to happen in Poland. Poland is not a country where bribes are too... but there are other countries in the world where bakshish, or whatever you call it, is much more normal. Mm-hmm. And that attitude to Americans might change, which is very unfortunate.
Exactly. So this decision drew criticism from many anti-corruption officials, say that basically this law would hurt operatives operating abroad, the U.S. companies, because most of the private sector see bribes as simply an unproductive coast. So it's unfortunate that we must discuss the foundings of business ethics. But why exactly the high standards are important in business?
For many reasons, but I just talked to my friend who ran businesses in Poland and countries in Ukraine, other countries in the world. And he says that once you cross the barrier of corruption and you start paying bribes, you are on the other side and there's no return back because the foreign officials know that you are taking bribes and it's a crime in the United States. So you are already subject to potential blackmail. Second, paying bribes actually increases costs of foreign investment, not decreases, because the bribes are going to, like in extortion, going to get bigger and bigger all the time because the appetite grows with time. And the third thing is that those bribes are actually charging American taxpayers. Because at the end of the day, the investments will be more costly, therefore the prices will be higher, and the American taxpayers are going to pay for those bribes. So not having bribes is a matter of economy, matter of ethics, matter of reputation, but also matter of a lot of money.
Since we are talking about the citizens of the United States and the domestic dimension of this decision, bribing officials of foreign governments to obtain or retain business abroad will be legal, but domestically it will be prohibited by the law, right? So
it's still prohibited. I mean, the law is the same for everybody. American company and non-American company that operate on the United States are not to pay any bribes, first. And second, if they do, they have to report it in the financial statements. So not reporting them is a crime itself. So the law is pretty straightforward and was adopted by OECD, as I said, in many other countries. And it's going to be abroad. And that law applies to in the United States as well. I mean, the bribery is a crime no matter what.
Exactly.
The law actually extends itself out, so the foreign companies even who operate in the United States would be subject to this law. So that's a very far-going stretch of that jurisdiction of American companies, and they were enforcing those things, and most of the enforcement ended up with some kind of settlement. So if the government went after somebody because they learned that there was a bribe paid, the matter would not go to court, but there would be some settlement. The company would pay penalty and try not to do it again. Another thing that the law requires is internal checks. And investigations. So if you don't have that in your company, you're already committing a crime. So it's a very extended law. However, I'm not aware of anybody complaining that the enforcement of this law was overburdening the companies. It's not. Quite the contrary. The fact that the companies could project themselves to foreign officials, we don't take bribes, don't even try to come to us, is very beneficial to American companies. Other thing. I remember my friend Warren Brown, who was the head of General Motors, and he ran into unusual obstacles in importing cars to Poland. Published an article saying not a penny more of investment. There was a phenomenal successful threat to anybody who was thinking that bribes could be paid. So that's much better way to deal with the business than paying bribes to the foreign officials.
So do you foresee a reverse effect of this measure, simply scaring off the contractors making business with Americans abroad? Well,
because the law affects not only American companies, but an affiliate of American companies abroad. So yeah, it might be that somebody might do business with Americans and get caught into this whole process of doing. But withholding enforcement means open field for doing the bribes, because pursuant to the justification, it's supposed to be better for business for these companies. It's not. However, if they don't enforce it, yes, then foreign officials might feel a little bit at ease of looking out for bribes. My friend Peter is laughing that the American government stopped the USAID helping people all over the world, and instead replaced it with the helping to the foreign officials by offering them bribes. It's a satire and it's a paradox, but it's not happening. I hope that this is maybe too much to say that it is going to be stopped. This enforcement. The enforcement will come back. They're going to review it, and I'm sure the government will be doing the job because it's required by law. So they cannot abstain from enforcing that particular legislation.
So Pam Bondi now is in a difficult position, the Attorney General.
Yeah, she's going to review it and probably say, oh, maybe here we should not do that much, but maybe here we can do better. And eventually somebody's going to say, and maybe courts are going to force the government to actually enforce the law, because this is a law that's binding on everybody, including President Trump and his cabinet.
So do you somehow understand this move as being another PR move by Donald Trump, who simply wants to do as much as he can at the very beginning of his term?
It's funny that you mention it, because I sort of suspect that there are a lot of words being said by Trump, by other officials, by Musk, which are very interesting from the point of view of publications and TVs like yours, while the real change and the real revolution, the real attack on the federal government is actually occurring outside of limelight in the activities of the people from the Heritage Foundation that was preparing a sort of for a lot of people to do exactly that and get the government and shred it down to very small government, sort of the bureaucratization effort. And the Heritage Foundation people, which pose as mask people sometimes, are doing the actual job that we don't see, and that's much more effective and dangerous to the federal government than what Trump is saying in public TV and radio and press.
Last thing also is the positioning of United States and its soft power sort of influence it always had on countries battling corruption. It was somehow setting an example. Of course, they were never very high on those index rankings, right? But still, they were just expecting reaching higher standards by its partners. How about now? What does it say to the world? What is the signal?
There's a salvo into the side of the American business, but it's not deadly. Because first of all, I think that American companies are pretty much clean and ethical and have integrity. Because as my colleague said, it's better for their business to be clean than corrupt. Corruption is costly and it's actually damaging to the business. So being clean turns out to be better. So first of all, the American companies are not going to jump and try bribe everybody around. Second, I think it's a misnomer, because it's not going to be the law is staying the law, and it needs to be enforced. Sooner or later, the enforcement will take place, and there are many ways of enforcing it. So not only by the federal government, but there are other agencies. So we will. I don't think there'll be permanent damage done to it. Still, the Americans are prohibited from bribing foreign officials, no matter what the President Trump says in his executive orders.
Thank you so much for your insight and your time. Thank you for being with us tonight. Roman Rewald was our guest this evening, and thank you very much for this edition of World Talk. Please stay tuned to TVP World for more.